you can have a dialogue with the Shechina, but I don't think you can with a Basko.
It's a one-way. It's a one-way conversation.
Yeah.
And then it was funny in those days. Like things were commonplace. For us, it would be mind-boggling. So we're up to the second wide line on Chaf Beis Amud Aleph. Rav Broika Chuza have a shchiach b'shuka devei left. He would hang out in the left circles. He was a leftist. He was in the shukah devei left. So he was on the left websites, on the left marketplaces. And have a shchiach Eliyahu. He was, Eliyahu would hang out with him. When he would go to the left shuk, he would have Eliyahu with him. Amalei. So he asked Eliyahu, tell me, Eliyahu, Ika b'hai shukah by Almad Asi. Look around. Do you see anybody here who you think is particularly going to be zoichet to Olam Haba? Amalei, no, I don't think so. Not this place. This place is a bunch of losers. You're not going to find anybody good here. As they're conversing, Chaza Lugavra. They saw a guy who was dressed like a goy. First of all, he was wearing black shoes, and only a goy wore black shoes in those days. Can you imagine in the olden days, the goyim wore black shoes, and they wore black hats, and black jackets, and white shirts, and the Eden were wearing colorful things. Times have changed. We were wearing the happy socks. And he also was not wearing chelis on his beged. He wasn't wearing tzitzis. Amalei, and Eliyahu said, hi, by Almad Asi. This is a Ben Olam Haba. So the Bach sticks in that he called out to him. Koralei, he said, sir, can I speak to you for a moment? But the person ignored him. So Rod Basre, so a broker ran after him. He needed to see this guy and meet this guy and find out what is so special about this fellow, that this fellow is a Ben Olam Haba. Yeah. Amarle, so he asked him, tell me, sir, what do you do for a living? Tell me about you. You're a Ben Olam Haba. I want to know what about you is so special. Amarle, I'm really sorry, sir. I cannot talk now. Zilla, Idna, you got to go. This son Lamacher, come back tomorrow. We won't talk. Lamacher Amarle, he came back the next day and he asked him, Amarle, Zandakuna Ana. That's the Russian word for a jail guard. The Zandakuna. So he was a jail guard. What is my custom? I make it a point to separate, even though we're in a leftist area where they keep, because the truth is, how could you even say there's a difference? It's all the same, right? They're leftists. Nevertheless, I make sure to separate the men from the women. I hope we won't get cut off on YouTube just for mentioning that they actually separate the men from the women. And I put my bed as a mechitza in between the men and the women, so there shouldn't be any mingling. The other thing that I do, this jail guard, if I see that my superiors or other jail guards are looking to abuse a Jewish girl, I will literally give up my life to help her, because if I start pushing around my superiors, I might become in jail. But I do whatever it takes to protect Jewish girls. There was in our prison a Naira Hamurasa. I saw that they had the eyes for it's not going to be good. They're going to attack. So you know what I did? Shakli Durdaya de Chamr. I took a bunch of shmorim, red, bloody, it looked like bloody red stuff. Bishadoyla bishifula. I put it at the bottom of her dress, so it should look like she's Anita. And she's actively flowing, which is repulsive, which would make them stay away from her. For Amri Distani, and they said, she must be at that time of the month, which is a little repulsive to get close to her, and they stayed away. And that was the trick that he used to keep them away. Amr lay. So he said, if you're such an erlich yid and your Moshe nefesh talbiten, my time less lach chuti v'ramis masani ochli. A, why don't you wear tzitzis? And B, why are you wearing shoes that goyim wear? Amr lay, because ayal novin efikna beini nachrim. I mingle a lot with the goyim. Why do I mingle with them? We'll soon see. But the main thing is, since I mingle with them, I don't want them to know that I'm Jewish. I used to love my father-in-law would always wear that cap that no Jew ever wears, and he didn't call himself Yaakov Doiv in the Goyish Welt. He called himself Bernard, and no one ever had a clue that he was Jewish. He has that cap with the long nose, and his name is Bernard. No one would have ever guessed that he was Jewish. I mean, for sure Irish, or maybe it's Italian. Anyway, so I didn't want them to know I was Jewish, so because of that, I wore Goyish shoes, and I didn't wear tzitzis. This way, if I was mingling with them, I hung out with them in the pubs and in the bars and on the streets. This way, I heard them talking. So when they were planning some type of zera against Klal Yisrael, I would be able to give early warning to the Rabbanan, and they would be able to do tefillah, and they would be able to do batal exeris. And my father used to teach as a substitute. He taught in the Satmar Cheder. He taught English because I guess something happened to a teacher, and they came to Torah V'das, and they asked, "Does anybody here speak English and speak Yiddish?" And they picked my father. So my father would teach there, and he told me he gave the faraskis just like the Rebbeim gave faraskis. They didn't know what hit them. So one day his tzitzis, my father didn't have his tzitzis out. One day his tzitzis were hanging out. So he said, "Oi, the teacher is a Yiddish and gewiss." But they would have never known. If you don't wear tzitzis, they can't tell. So anyway, so he would tell them, he would mingle with the goyim, and therefore he would know if there's a gzer, and he would warn the rabbanim to them. Umay taima kiaminalach, ana my uvdach, but Mark Nizilla idem Solomocher. Why couldn't you tell me yesterday when I asked you, what do you do? Why couldn't you tell me this yesterday? Amalei told him, we're on Daf Chaf Beis Amud Aleph, and we're just about halfway down. Amalei Bahi Shaita Gazik Zeros. At that very moment, there was an alarm. There was a gzera that was nigzar, and I needed quickly to report it to the rabbanim. I didn't have time to converse with you in the shuk. Famina Bereisha Ezel ve'Eshmal Hula Rabbanon. First, I got to tell the rabbanim the leboy rachmi Allah the milsa, so they can ask rachmanis, and then I was going to speak to you. That's why I told you to come back tomorrow. At the hachi v'hachi, while they're schmoozing, asiyanech trei achi, two additional people came. I believe they changed the word to achi. Let me see the Zion. I believe the Zion in Zionim changed it to achi, trei achi. These two brothers came, and I asked them, and Elio commented on them as well. And Elio said, Hanachnami b'nei Almadasininu. Those two brothers are also b'nei Olam Haba. So I ran to them. I wanted to know what they do. Also, the Gabayu, Amarlu, my ubdaichu. What do you guys do? Amalei told him, we're two brothers. We're a batchen team. Inshi beduchi anan. We make jokes. We're a comedian team. One guy's name is Jigan, and the other guy's name was Schumacher. Right? We're a comedy team. Or one guy's name was Laurel, the other guy's name was Hardy. Anan mivdachinan atzivi. We joke around and we cheer up people who are in a bad mood.
Nobody knows who Ziggin and Schumacher is, who you're speaking to.
Well, Beryl knows who Ziggin and Schumacher is.
Isn't Beryl? That's it. Yeah.
So Ziggin and Schumacher one said a very good story. The one said, the law of relativity, they're talking about Newton's law of relativity. They said relativity is very simple. This is the law of relativity.
Einstein.
Einstein. This is Einstein's rule of relativity. 2 hairs on your head is very little, but 2 hairs in your soup is very much. That's the law of relativity. Everything's relative to its surroundings. Zwei Hut auf a cup is I abide. Zwei Hut in a zip in a yellow field.
I spoke to Dad too. He only heard 20 minutes.
So when you have a lot of money, the more money you have, the more relative.
Oh, very good. Barry Rathman Sr. said over the theory of relativity. The theory of relativity, the more money you have, the more relatives you have. Relative. Okay, so we make jokes. Also, trade is to take badayu. If we see 2 people are angry and they're fighting, we try to distract them. We put on a comedy show for them to get them to laugh, and that diffuses the situation.
Heavens door.
Okay,
Then Gimple asked me today how it could be, how the
that's
mission.
the doctor.
The doctor.
Is it?
Right? The doctor asked me, how is it that the mission and over it says Kol Yisrael Yesh V'Tenet L'Olam Haba?
Right.
Yet this Gemara seems to say that only these people are B'nei Olam Haba. Not a big. Seems like a steer.
Well, the answer probably is there's a Ben Olam Haba and then there's someone who's zoicha to more of them. But there's different levels, probably.
That's what I tried to tell him. I tried to tell him that there was a yeshlim chelik. Chelik can be very small chelik. A ben olam haba seems to be a much bigger.
Heimish over there. Yeah, I hear. Okay. Okay, so that takes care of the Eliyahu of the Gemara. Zok the head of the Gemara. Al elu masrin b'chol makom. And the following tragedies or serious crises, they daven everywhere for this. Tanu Rabban. Al elu masrin b'chol makom. Al ashidafan, which is winds that dry out the produce. Al yerokin is a physical illness that makes people green. Al arba, if there's arba which are going to eat up your crop. The chasil is another type of pest that does the same. Al chayera, if there's a chayera. And we're going to soon discuss what exactly is the chayera problem. Rabbi Kiva Omer, al shidafin val yerokin b'chol shu. Even if there's a tiny drop from shidafin and yerokin, everybody fasts. It's something that's a serious threat. Arba v'chasil, what about arba v'chasil? Even if you saw one grasshopper, Masrin Aleim, you daven. Why? Because one grasshopper has a lot of friends, and he's going to come. Ba'achaya. So the Mishnah had two things: either a chaya who ate children, or a chaya who was seen in an area where it doesn't belong. Taner Rabbanan. So we're soon going to see. We find on the streets of Toronto coyotes and foxes. So we're going to see if that's a threat, and we need to be masriya for that. Taner Rabbanan. Thanks to David Miller, by the way. This only happened because of the green bin. David Miller, Yamach Shema, is responsible for that.
Yeah, but he's also responsible for all the rats that are crawling around Toronto.
That's right.
Don't pick up the garbage.
David Miller, Chayiru. Taner Rabbanan. Chayira Sha'amru, a Chayiru that we're talking about, like David Miller, Bisman Shehi Mishulachas, if it's sent from the Rebbeinu Shloim as an oynish, that's when we got a masrin aleh. That's when we got it. But any Mishulachas, if it's normal, if it's natural, ain masrin aleh. So ezu mishulachas, the ezu she'ein mishulachas. What is something that we consider is clearly an oynish from Shemayim, and what's natural? Now the Bryce is going to give us a whole bunch of parameters that are going to be difficult to understand, and then the Gemara is going to sort it all out. So nearest be'ir, if you see a wolf in the city, mishulachas, that's not norm. Clearly, that's an oynish, and we need to daven for that. Besada, but if it's a wolf in the field, ain't mishulachas. That's not considered sent from Shemayim as an oynish. B'yoyim, if it's by day, mishulachas. But laila ain't mishulachas. Does this apply to the sada, or does this apply to the ear? The Gemara is going to clarify that. This wolf, and I'm just using wolf as an example of a wild animal. It saw two people and it pursued them. Mishulachas. That's not normal. Nechbas, if the top people and ran away to hide, the nechbas b'fneim ain't mishulachas. So that's their natural instinct to run when they see people. Tarfa shnei b'nei adam, the achla achas man, the chaya killed two people, but only ate one of them. That's mishulachas. Because if an animal would not have killed two people if it wasn't planning to eat both of them. The animal is not at a buffet in a hotel that since they're paying one flat rate, you take the half the buffet to your table, even though you only plan to eat a little bit. Now, the animals, when they're tired, they only take what they need. If it ate both of them, then animal shalachas, because it killed both of them because it needed a larger meal. What happens if it's also lagag? It went to the top of a flat roof place, and there was a baby there in a cradle, but not latinik me'arisa. That's mishulachas. So that's the brisa. Now the Gemara points out some inconsistencies in the brisa and clarifies. Hagufakash. What you said near shabeir mishulachas, which would indicate loishna b'yoyim v'loishna b'layla. These chayas never belong in a city, not by day nor by night. And then a moment later, you said, no, it's only a problem if you find them by day, but not if you find them by night. Near Sabair, if you found animals in the city, biyoim during the day, mishulachas, then it's a real problem. But be'ir v'layla ain't mishulachas. So now that we have wolves, not wolves, we have foxes and coyotes running around at night in Toronto, that's ain't mishulachas. You don't see them during the day, although I've seen foxes running around in broad daylight. But you normally don't see them by day, you see them at night. That's not called mishulachas. It's not called that.
Yosy, what does mishulachas mean? You kill it?
No, Rashi mishulachas means mishulachas min hashamayim. That means it's being sent from hashamayim to punish us. So that's why we have to daven.
Oh.
Okay, inami or besada. if you find an animal sada, if you see a wolf or a fox or some other wild animal running around in the sada by day, that's normal. What about if the wild animal pursued two people, that's not normal, that's sent from Shemayim. So if the animal didn't pursue them, but didn't run away, they just stood still and watched, that would not be considered dangerous or an oynish. But a moment later, the Rashi says, it's only normal if they actually run to hide the animals. So if the animals are standing there and watching, so we have a stira. If the animal is just standing and watching the people, is that normal or is that not normal? Because the Brisa only tells us if it runs after you, it's not normal. If they run into the bushes, it is normal. But what if it's just standing around? Is that normal or not? Where do the animals run to when they want to hide? They run into an agam, a marshy area full of thorns. That's where they hide out. That's where their lairs, where their dens are. However, so if the animal is standing right near its den, right near the marsh, and it's watching people, then it's going to stay where it is. Because if they feel threatened in a flash, they can run into the marsh. But if they're far away from their marsh or middle of a field, then the norm is that as soon as they see a person, they'll run away right away because they're not very close to their place of security. What if the animal ripped apart two people together? But only ate one of them. That's mishulachas. That's clearly an oynish from Shemayim. But shneim, if the animal ate them both, ain't mishulachas. So you said a moment ago that even if it merely pursues people, it's considered mishulachas. So what's the difference if it ate one, if it ate two? Even pursuing it is mishulachas. Amar Papa, kitana hiba agma. In the agma, if you're actually in their territory, then even running is mishulachas. But otherwise, only eating is mishulachas. No, I think I said that backwards. I apologize. I think I said that backwards. I think what I mean is kitana hiba agma. When do you say that if the animal runs after you, it's not called normal? That's in the field. But in the agam, even if the animal runs after you, that's normal. What's not normal if it eats you? Okay, Zok the Helig Gemara. Gufa. Also lagag, not latinik merisa mishulachas. What a horrible situation! An animal went and took a baby out of its cradle and ate it. It happened in the mountains with the bear. Zok Gemara pshita. It's a pashit. Of course, that's mishulachas. Omar Papa, no. The kuchi decided. We're not talking about a regular house. In a regular house, it's pashut. If an animal breached that, that's mishulachas. But this is being like a temporary type of hot cave dugout that's built for people who want to stay camouflaged to hunt birds or whatever. So that's something that's not such a lived-in place, and that's not so unusual for an animal to go in there. Kamash alone, that if an animal goes in there, that's called mishulachas.
People who have mountain homes, like people who have houses like in a secluded area in the mountains, if animals come into them or get their garbage or stuff like that, that's nothing to do with mishulachas. I
think it is, because kuchid tzadi isn't just mean it's a mountain home. It's something that's not used all the time. It's just
that's not mishulachas.
I'm sorry?
That is or isn't mishulachas?
Even in kuchid tzadi, the chiddush is that even that is mishulachas. Even that is mishulachas. Okay, alacher. If this is a fascinating gemara, if there's an army surrounding your city, you fast. You make all the tefillas. This cherev, this army that we're talking about, it's pashut that if they're coming to siege and to wage war, yes, that's clearly something you got to daven. Even if they want to just pass through your land and they have no intention of harming you, they just need to get through to reach their target, to get to their battlefield. The greatest story, the famous story of Parnachei and Yosy Melech was a shalom. He wasn't planning to attack Eretz Yisrael. He just wanted to get to Eretz Yisrael to take on Syria. Nevertheless, Yosy was nichshal, and he ended up suffering terribly. He got killed because of this.
That wasn't the point that he should have let them through. He tried to stop them.
Correct. That's correct. But that's called a cherev shel shalom.
Victor points out that the reason why he got suffered, why he suffered, is because he didn't ask Yirmiyahu.
The Gemara is going to say that. That's right.
Right, so the Victor points out, well, hold on a second.
But Victor Miller or Victor Hyman?
A Victor is a Victor Hyman.
Right.
Rebbe Victor, not yet. A Victor Hyman is not yet Rebbe Victor.
Uh-huh.
Right? He might be Rebbe Victor Hyman. In any case,
Okay.
We're not on a first name basis.
Rebbe Victor points out that Yoshiyahu did ask a Navi, a Naviel, right? He asked Huldah, a Naviel,
Uh-huh.
and she said to go ahead. So what was his Aveira? He didn't have to go to Lador, Yirmiyahu.
Uh-huh.
He points out that Yoshiyahu didn't just not ask. He did ask.
So you should don't ask for below. You ask for Chaim Kanevsky.
Don't ask women.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Here. Okay. The Zakta Gemara. Vayishlach Elov Malachim Lemar. The king of Mitzrayim, Parinachei, sent messengers to Yoshiyahu HaMelech. Mali Balach. We have nothing against each other. We get along. We're not going to be fighting each other. Melech Yehuda, lo yalecha ata yoim. I'm not coming to challenge you. Ki al beis milchamti. I just need to get to my battlefield. Velohim and my God, Omer levaleni, told me I got to go. Chadelach, melahim hashaimi. Let go. In other words, let me through. Don't stand on ceremony because of the God that I have. Otherwise, my God's going to destroy you. Who was this God that Parinachei had with him? Ma'elahim hashaimi. Amr Yehuda, Amr Rav, Zu Avodah Zarah. He had a Getchkis with him. So that's what Yoshiyahu said. If that's who he's relying on Getchkis, I have nothing to worry about. Amr Hoyel v'Kazbadach B'Avodah Zarah, Yechil Nilei. I could take him on, no problem. And in fact, right away, you see exactly how well he took him on. The arrow squad sent up a swarm of arrows that landed all on Yoshiyahu. And it punctured him, it made him into Gemara, going to tell us in a second, like a sieve. He was punctured in multiple places. After the king is on his chariot, he's completely cut up with arrows. And he doesn't say, I'm destroyed. He said, servants, Haviruni, take me out of the battlefield. I think I have a headache. I think I have a little headache. Get me out of here. I need an aspirin. What exactly was his condition? His whole body was like a sieve. That's how many holes was punctured in it. What was Yoshiyahu's Avera? He seems to have been very logical, and we're going to soon see why he was logical. So why was he punished? He should have asked Yirmiyahu Hanavi, but he didn't ask. So my Dosh, what was his mistake? What was his assumption? Why you didn't let them through? He had a very good timing, because it says in the pasuk before the Teichacha, the cherev loy saber ba'artzachem. No cherev, no army, no sword will ever travel through your land. My cherev, he asked, what type of cherev does the pasuk mean? If we're talking about an actual attack from an enemy army, the pasuk at the beginning of this very same pasuk says, so the pasuk already promises us we're not going to be under siege or under attack. So when the pasuk adds to it, the cherev l'saber ba'artzachem, it must mean elafilu shel cherev shel sholem. It must be that the Torah is being maftiach Klal Yisrael that they won't even have a cherev shel sholem passing through. No, with such a promise, why was he wrong? He was very right. Dr. Gemara, any idea what Yoshiyahu HaMelech did not know is she'ein doire doime yafa. His door wasn't on the level of the doires that would be zoicher, not even to have a cherev shel sholem. And that was his mistake. And boy, did he pay for it. When he was dying, literally, the life was oozing out of him. Yirmiyahu's fosfei, the Kamakshin, he saw that Yoshiyahu HaMelech's lips were moving. He was saying something, but he didn't know what he was saying. Omar, Yirmiyahu said, Shema chas v'sholem milsud le'mahagna Omar. Maybe chas v'sholem, maybe chas v'sholem, Yoshiyahu HaMelech is complaining to the Rebbeinu Shalom. He has ties on the Rebbeinu Shalom. Omar, agav tzayre gochin, I'm sorry, Doma, since he's in such pain and in such a bad situation, maybe he's losing himself and he's saying something inappropriate. So Gochin Deshame, Yirmiyahu HaMelech bent down to hear what is Yoshiyahu HaMelech saying. And you know what he heard? The Kamatzdik Aledine Anafshe. he was saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu did the right thing. He didn't have any ties to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Amar Tzadik Hu Hashem, Kifiu Marisi Apostle Kanecha. Rebbeinu Shalom is right. I rebelled against Hashem. So Yirmiyahu responded, Pasach Ala Yishaita, and he said, Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem. This is a man who's ready to be Mashiach, because he's a man who's makir in the worst matziv, the godless of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Zokt Eile Gemara Vayter. Maisa, there was a story. The Yardu Zakenim Yerushalayim L'Areim. The Zakenim were on break. They were on recess. The Supreme Court was on recess. They went around to the cities and they saw a little bit of Shidafin, and right away they made a Gzeira, they made Taanis. Ibailu. So what exactly did they see? So let's actually look at the Lashon of the Mishnah, so we'll know exactly what we're discussing over here. So if we look at the Mishnah, let me just find the page.
AVG stuff.
It's antivirus.
I know, but
I don't use it.
I once.
Let me find the page. So it says over here, the Ma'aseh Yardu Zakenim. At the first mission, the parak, Mishalayim L'Areim, V'goz Dosh Al Shanir Kamalei Pi Tanner. They said the opening, they saw the amount that would fill a tanner of Shidafin, which is dried out stool. So the Gemara wants to know exactly how much that was. So the Gemara says over here on Daf Chav Beis Amid Beis, Zog to Gemara, Ibayalahu. So we're like 3 lines before the wide line. Kamalei Tanner Tvua is a pshat. They saw an amount of tuah that you could stuff an oven with. So let's say the oven is a 5-gallon pail. So 5 gallons worth of tuah. That's how much they saw of tuah that was dried out. Or maybe they looked at a tanner and they figured how many loaves of bread could bake in that tanner. They don't totally fill the oven with bread. They put it spread out on the walls, right? So how much tuah would you need to make that much bread? And that's the amount that they saw that triggered the Taanis. Zok Gemara Tashma, because the Bride says Kamali Pitan, and for the Lashon Pitaner, at least according to Rashi, there's a pshat that actually says pass, but we're going to learn, like the Gemara says over here, Kamali Pitaner. That means fill up the opening of the tanner. That's clearly not talking about loading up the whole tanner with wheat. It means the opening of the tanner. That's normally where you put the bread. So it's zikr talking about bread, not talking about filling the oven with wheat. Practically more, but vadayin tibaylu, it's still not clear exactly how much bread it is that we're talking about. Is it kikisui the tanura? Most ovens come to a small hole at the top, and you can just put one bread to cover it. So we're talking about enough wheat to bake one loaf of bread. And Rashi has 2 pshatim in what this means. Either it means when the mouth of the oven widens, there's a larger circumference at that point, and all around the circumference you would adhere loaves of bread to it. So it means, 7, 8 loaves that would go around the opening. That's one shot. Second shot of Rashi is if you literally build up the loaves of bread like bricks, and use it to cover the whole opening. So the question is how much we're talking about. The Gemara didn't know clearly how much tvu was affected that triggered this gzeira of the Yitzhak.
The Gemara is saying that the Gemara understands that you're actually sealing it. You're sealing
The oven with a whole bunch of bread.
That's only shy for bread, it's not shy for bread.
So that's how they know that P must be bread and not grain. Gewaltig. Oh, yeah, thank you. Zog the Heilige Gemara weiter. This is a very difficult Gemara to learn. It's a very tragic story. But it goes with Taanis also the Avim. Omer ulam shemab shim b'nei tzadok. Maisa ubaloi ze Avim shnei tinoikos. The wolves swallowed 2 children. V'hikiyum derech beiserei. And after the production system processed their catch, it excreted the rest from the place where it goes out of. But it wasn't. The bodies weren't completely dissolved. It's almost like the bodies were still intact when they came out. And can you imagine that the Pascha Nashayla Tumen Tahira, if these bodies have the name of Tumas Mace, the meat on the skeleton, they said is not tummy because it already went through the digestive process of the animal. But the Timus Tumas, the bones are still intact. They still have the bones, so they'll be tummy Tumas Mace. Al Elam Asrin b'Shabbos. These types of soros, they even go into a Yom Tefillah on Shabbos. Tanur Rabban. Ir Sheheki Fuanach, a city that was surrounded by goyim, meaning they're gonna be a marauding mass, like the Cossacks, or like what's it called?
Any Goshen nation.
Yeah, and what's it called? The Crusades, right? Oinohar, or there's a river about to overflow and flood everybody, like in BC. The Echad Svina Hamataravis Bayam, or if there's a ship that's in danger of capsizing in the Yam. The Echad Yochet Shenirdaf Mipnei Nachem, or a Yid that's being pursued by Goyim. Or if they listed, or there's robbers that are pursuing him. Or if they Ruach Ra, he has a Ruach Ra and he's running around like a Meshuggah now, and we're afraid he's gonna do harm to himself. He's gonna run into a river, he's gonna run into a hole. So we need to stop him. Al Kulam Yochid Rishoy L'Sagiv is Atzma B'Taanis. And all these things, even a Yochid can fast. Rabbi Yosy Aimer Ein HaYochid Rishoy L'Sagiv is Atzma B'Taanis. A Yochid is not allowed to punish himself with Taanis. You know why? Because he's not going to be able to work properly if he has a headache and doesn't feel well. And then he's not going to make parnasa, and then he's going to go snotty. Not do me no favors. Shemi is derech l'briyos. They ain't abris merachmas alav. Who told you to make yourself crazy? And now you expect us to support you? So this is a little bit of a problem, this Gemara, because we have over here a machlokes whether or not you're allowed to fast. But we already had a machlokes if you're allowed to fast. We had a machlokes if fasting is a chayte, and you learn that out of a nazir, or fasting is a kadosh, and you learn that out of a nazir. And we had a machlokes, right? And the Gemara said, "Madich nazir," where you only held yourself back from wine, you call it chayte. When you fast and you hold yourself back from everything, you should surely be a chayte. And the Gemara made the same kavuchayim with kadosh. So Tosfos asks the kasha. So let's look at Tosfos. Rabbi Yosy Aimer Eina Yachid Rishoy L'Sagi. Venir Lizak Tosfos the Hani Tanoi Loi Pligi V'Hadin Ma'iri Hani Amiroi B'Pirkin Galil. The two Tanoim that we're quoting here that are arguing as to whether or not a Yachid could punish himself with the fast have nothing to do with the machlokes Amiroyim that we discussed in the first paragraph. Im Nikra Chayte or Nikra Kadosh. The Ha'amiroi Pligi back there on Daf Yud Aleph, the machlokes was the Motzil Tzur Nafshe. You could withstand the fast. You're not going to debilitate yourself. You can withstand the fast. The question is if you're chayte anyway for withholding yourself the pleasures of the world that the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us. But the Hanitai Pligi, our question here is with Motzil Tzur Nafshe. When by fasting you're hurting yourself, you won't be able to work. You're going to become poor. So that's a whole different shaila. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. My time with Rabbi Yosy. Why does Rabbi Yosy hold you not allowed to fast if you're going to hurt yourself, if you're going to weaken yourself? That's what it says in Parashas Bereshis. And we learn from here that the neshama that I put in you, keep it alive, keep it strong, keep it healthy. So Avada, you're not allowed to fast, especially if it's going to impact your health.
We make a deal that listim are even hidden because we already said it's a lochem, so obviously listim, obviously lochem are listim are lochem, no. And we obviously mean that listim, even if they're hidden.
Well, maybe it means Nachem who want to kill him or hurt him, and listim, even if they don't hurt him, they just want to steal from him. Okay. Zok the Gemara. Shimon Ataimoni Aimer. Af al Hadever. So let's look back at the Mishnah to see exactly what it was that we were discussing. And there was a machlokes whether or not you fast for dever, but it's not quite clear in the Mishnah what exactly is the machlokes. So let me go back into the Mishnah, and it says in the Mishnah. Shimon Afal dever is also something that you're masriin b'Shabbos. The Chacham says you're not masriya for dever. So the Gemara says it's a little bit unclear. Is this speaking about Shabbos or is this speaking about the week? So let's go see the Gemara. Afal dever, zok the Gemara. That we said loy haydu loy chacham. Does that mean b'Shabbos? They only said on Shabbos we don't want you to be masriya for a dever. But during the weekday avada you should make sure to fast. It's a dever. Maybe they hold for a dever. You don't fast. You don't masriya for that. Tashma, the Tanya, we have a brayso that's very clear. Masriya al dever b'Shabbos vein tzarich lemer b'choil. And Reb Chanan ben Pitum Talmidish Reb Akiva Mishum Reb Akiva Aimer ein masriya al dever koliker. You see, it's a machlokes even if you're masriya on dever even in the week. Oh, thank you very much for that. Gavalti. Thank you very much. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ta'achar al ne'ev. No,
That piece of-
no, my idol's watching. You know, I can get away with it, but my kids, I have my son here and my idol, there's no way I'll get away with it.
There's an article in Mishpacha, an evil article in Mishpacha this week by Rabbi Schaefer.
I won't read it, okay. Zog the Hele Gemara weiter. If it's an article that you think I shouldn't read, I have a feeling some of my kids are going to tell it over to me. Zog the Hele Gemara weiter. Zog the Hele Gemara weiter.
They ban a book of where you.
That's right. A kultar shel tavei al tzibur. Tanu Rabban. A kultar shel tavei al tzibur mashrin alaya. Chutz merav gesham. Unless there's too much rain. My time, Amar B'Yochanan, v'she'ein mispal al reva toiva. You never are mispal for Hashem to take away something good, even if it's not so good anymore. Amar B'Yochanan, minayin she'ein mispal al reva toiva. How do you know you're not supposed to ask Hashem to take away an abundance of good? Shenemar, it says a viyu is called a meiser. It's called by Etzer. We have to look at this pasuk in time. It's a beautiful pasuk. You know, President Trump once said, "We're going to win so much, you're going to be tired of winning. That's how much we're going to win." So look what it says in the pasuk. Haviyas kol meiser al beis Etzer miteref bevesi. Bring me meiser. And Hashem says, "Uvechanumi bazos." You can test me on this. Amar Hashem tzedakos. If you give tzedakah, im eftach lachem es harubos hashemayim, I'm going to open up the windows of the heavens. We'll give you bracha ad v'lidai till you're going to be worn out from saying that's enough already. Like Trump's nusach. You're going to be sick of winning. You're going to be winning so much. Ad v'lidai. So you see that you're supposed to appreciate, even if it's ad v'lidai, even if it's more than what you need, you're never supposed to tell Hashem to limit it. My ad v'lidai, what does the pasuk mean ad v'lidai? Omer Rami bar Rav Yud, there was a Yid, his name was Rav Yud. It makes sense, it's a Yid. Maybe his name was Rav Yid, not Rav Yud. Could be he was a Litvak, they called him Rav Yud, but really it was Rav Yid. Anyway, your lips will be worn out already from saying enough. That's how much of abundance you're going to have. Amar Rabbi bar Rav Yud, uvegoyla. That's how we say you don't daven if there's too much rain. That's if we're talking about Yerushalayim, which is high, and the water drains down off it, or even all of Israel is relatively high, so the rain drains down off it, so it won't flood. But uvegoyla and Babel, which we say is a lowland, it gets muddy and water gathers there. There, Masrinallah, there you take a daven if it gets too rainy. Tanya Abihachi, Shana Shekeshamel Merubin. If you have a year where there's too much rain, Anshe Mishmar Shorchen LaAnshe Maimed. The Kohanim of the Mishmar will tell the Yisraelim and the Maimed who fast and daven, they're weak on behalf of the rest of Klal Yisrael. Shenu Einechem Ba'achechem Shebegoyla. You keep your focus on those Yidden and Goyla, meaning when you're fasting and you're davening, have them special in mind. Their house shouldn't become their graves, meaning they shouldn't flood. They shouldn't get flooded out, chas v'sholem, and get hurt over there. Shalosh Rabbi Eliezer, they asked Rabbi Eliezer, at heichan v'shamim yordim v'yispalish yordim. How much does it have to rain? We're at that point, we daven that it stopped raining. Amalami told them, and the answer that I told them was basically never. No matter how much rain, unless there's a real mabul happening, you should never ask for the rain to stop. And the way he expressed it was, Kideshiyamid Adam Bekeren Apple. Keren Apple was a large, tall mountain peak. If a person standing on the mountain peak, be a shachshech, Raglav B'mayim, and his feet are sloshing in water, if the water is that high, maybe 1,000 feet high, maybe then you could stop asking for water. I thought we had a brisa that said when your hands are sloshing the water. Raglav Kiyada coming up. This is a very, very shver Gemara. Because Raglav Kiyada kind of means, yeah, because if your feet are in water, you can easily bend down and touch your toes, and then your hands are in water. Very shver Gemara. I mean, all the Rishonim Mitzvah on this Gemara. I have no idea about in this Gemara. Okay, I can reach it. I'm not going to reach my knees on a good day. Zog the Helig Gemara weiter. I'm a Rabbi Barbachana. L'didi chazel li keren apple. Isaac keren apple. And I just want to give you an idea of how tall, how high it was. To come Utaya Kirachav Gamo, there was this Arab merchant riding a camel. So if someone's sitting on top of a camel, how tall is he? 10 feet up? Yeah, about 10, 12 feet up, right? He's 10, 12 feet up. But he's holding a spear. Let's say it's another 10 feet. So let's say the top of the spear at the highest is 20 feet from the ground. Okay? Mischazi Iniva. If you're standing on top of Keren Apple and you're looking down, he looks like a dot. It's literally like when you're flying in an airplane. Iniva is just a telas, like a little worm. So this big guy with this big spear looks like a dot. That's how high up. So basically, what Belezer is saying is, until Keren Nafel is flooded, you don't stop the rain. Taner Rabban, I'll give the rain at the right time. Lo shakura, not too much wine. Shikar means too much, not wine, too much rain. Lo tzemeya, not that it should be dry. Elabaniness, it should be perfect, just the amount of rain that we need. Shekos man chagasham merubin. If there's too much rain, metash tishinis haaretz, it makes the whole world, the whole ground muddy. The ain't matzia Paris, and it won't properly make Paris. Dober acher. Another pshat. What does the article say? What's the type of metash tishin? What's the exact translation of it? That like it makes it muddy and mushy. Muddy, okay.
Didn't Taanis start talking when there was too much water?
No.
We're gonna see he did. We're gonna see he ended up in the Mishnah. It doesn't talk about it, but we're gonna learn the Brashi tomorrow. We did get involved. So Be'itam.
They asked him to stop, and he said that when that Evan fills up,
That's right.
which Rashi says is impossible.
That's right.
In other words,
The Brashi elaborates more. He ended up doing it in a different type of way. Be'itam. When's a good time for it to rain? Tuesday nights and Friday nights, because Tuesday nights and Friday nights people are not on the streets. Why they're not on the streets? Rashi tells us why. Because in the Gemara Pesachim, there was a Yid that we all know, Reb Chanina ben Doisa, right? And he was once strolling down the street one night, and he met the shade Igris Basmachlas. And she had with her 18,000 shadelets, right? She had little shadelets with her. And each one of them was capable of killing a person. And she said, if you weren't Chanina ben Doisa, that they say in Shemaim, you're who knows what, I would have pulverized you. He says, well, now that you tell me that, get out of here, scram, get out of earth, never come back. He says, but ich darf doch auch Banusa. They'll have Rachmunus on me. He says, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll let you dry sich on the earth Tuesday nights and Friday nights. But that's it. So because of that, those are 2 nights a week where you shouldn't dry sich on the gas. Because she's ruling that. She's out there. It's very dangerous. So therefore, it's those 2 nights a week that'll rain. You'll think if it only rains 2 nights a week, is that enough to support growth? We found in the days of Shimon ben Chetach, only it only rained 2 nights a week. And you know what tremendous yield they had? If anybody ever looked at a cereal box, it always says texture enlarged, product enlarged to show texture, right? They magnify that delicious barley kernel to show texture. But in Shimon ben Chetach's days, it was real. Each wheat kernel was the size of a kidney. And each barley was like the seeds of an olive. The beans were kedinari zar, and it was so unbelievable that they decided they need to preserve permanently samples. The tzarma and dugma l'doros. Why? The idea to teach us kama hachet goyim, how damaging chet is. Shenemar avoynei seichem hitu ela. The Yeraveris caused the degradation of the quality of the fruit. V'chatei manu hatoiv michem, and Yeraveris held back the good from you. V'chein matzidim herdis. You find Herdis did a massive renovation project on Har HaBayit. He knocked down the second base of Mikdash and he put up an edifice that we still see today. But they had to work day in, day out. On a rainy day, you can't get much done. But they need rain. So what happened? So you oiskim bevini base of Mikdash, or you yordim geshom balayla. It rained every night. But lemachar in the morning, noshva ruach, the wind blew, nispazu avim, and the clouds separated and spread and dissolved. The zarch achama, and it was a wonderful sunny day. The yatso amlo malachton, and everybody was able to go do their work because it was a bright sunny day. The yadu, and they all knew shemalecha shemayim b'yadayim, because it rained at night and every morning it was nice and clear, so they were able to get their work done. Gavaltic. So with this we will stop. The Mitcham tomorrow morning we're going to learn at 7, and the second learning will be 9:15 because davening is a little bit longer tomorrow because of Halal and Musaf. So I want to wish everybody a good tavach, and we should be zoicha. We should be zoicha that very little rain, and it should create tremendous bracha for us. You know, it's not only wheat kernels and barley kernels. It could be stocks. It could be business. It could be every asset that we have should blow up and expand, and our weight should be inversely proportional. As our portfolios grow bigger and bigger, our weight should get lower and lower, except for Chaim Tzvi.
Okay, how about davening for little snow?
Shmuel is davening for snow. Shmuel is davening for snow. So